Welcome to the Kentucky History Channel, where we strive to bring you all the Kentucky history content you want and you deserve. Kentucky is a part of all of us, and we plan on covering all the history we can, from Pike County to Fulton County, from Louisville to Harlan. Here on our YouTube channel, you can find many videos dedicated to different events, people, governors, and places in Kentucky. There's something for everybody. While you're here, if you like the channel, hit the subscribe button and the notification button so you get notified anytime new Kentucky history is available. And if you want to support the channel, we have a Patreon page as well, or patreon.com/kyhistorypod. Welcome back to the Kentucky History Podcast. I'm your host, Jameson Cable, and I'm here with Simon Miners. I did say your name right?
Oh, you did.
Oh, good. And he's from the Fraser History Museum in Louisville, Kentucky. How you doing?
I'm great. How are you, Jameson?
I'm doing good, and this is one of our extra special episodes here. It has been 5 years of the Kentucky History Podcast, so we are, doing our best to get a little extra content out there for those who are dedicated, true listeners, and those people who are new as well. So thank you all for listening, and we're going to have a little bit of Kentucky history, not as long as usual, but we're going to dive into some good musical Kentucky history, right?
That's right, yeah.
Well, before we get started with that, quickly tell us a little bit about yourself and your Kentucky connection.
I'm born and raised in the state of Kentucky, born in 1988, went to school here, public schools in Louisville, JCPS, University of Louisville, got my bachelor's and master's degree here in humanities. Finished in 2017, got hired in 2017 here at the Fraser History Museum. So I've now worked here 7 years. My title is Communications and Research Specialist. I work in the marketing department. I write our press releases, social media posts I do. I edit our newsletter, Fraser Weekly, that goes out to 35,000 subscribers every Monday morning, which a lot of great Kentucky history in there. So on the job, I've learned a lot of Kentucky history. And just as a publicist for this Kentucky History Museum, we're now in our 20th year as a museum. Like I said, I've only been here 7 years, but it's been such a treat to learn about Kentucky and communicate that to all of our followers in the community.
Yeah, well, and we want to, thank you for all the good work you're doing there. It's one of those things, one of those places. If you're not connected to Kentucky history, you might not realize there's this Kentucky History Museum right there in Louisville to check out. It's right downtown. I've been there back. Well, we're going to talk about when you all had the 120 county exhibit and so forth, and there's just a lot of Kentucky history. Everybody should go check it out.
That's right. We've got the oldest Civil War monument in America. We have got, which is from a battle in Hart County, Kentucky, December 17th, 1861, the Battle of Rowlett Station. We've got Mary Todd Lincoln's arrest warrant. Obviously, she's a Kentuckian. We've got some incredible Kentucky history artifacts up through pop culture as well.
Yeah. And well, let's get into it. Let's talk a little about Kentucky music. When you hear Kentucky music, what do you think about?
Well, I can tell you this, Jameson. I love music. Like I said, I was born in 1988. I went to college in the late aughts and the early 2010s, and I listened to a lot of pop and indie music. I'd go to Pitchfork. I'd see whatever was popular. And a couple of years ago, I started giving tours of our pop culture exhibit here at the museum, Cool Kentucky. And I was realizing I started like digesting a lot more Kentucky pop culture. I was watching, Kentucky films and reading Kentucky novels, and I still am doing that to this day. So Kentucky has been a bigger part of my life since that point. But one thing I was really lacking in was Kentucky music. So I made a concerted effort to fix that. And I took a pretty drastic move. Back in 2021, I believe, I had a Spotify Premium, right? And I went through, and I had been for years listening to like Drake and Beach House and all my favorite, pop music and Top 40 and Ariana Grande and whatever. And dude, I unfollowed all of it. I deleted everything in there until it was back to zero. And from that point, I started only following Kentucky artists, right? Mm-hmm. So the classic stuff that you probably grew up listening to that I didn't, because I wasn't like a big bluegrass or country fan. I started listening to Sam Bush, Loretta Lynn, Bill Monroe, listening to their entire catalog from the start, Dwight Yoakam. And moving, into folk, into all these other genres of Kentucky music. And like, I started tracking it in a Google Doc, and I was like, just building up my familiarity with Kentucky music. And it became sort of an obsession with me. And I was like, literally, so that's continued to this day. We're talking in 2024. And for 3 years now, I've been following a bunch of new Kentucky music. I say new, but I mean, it's new to me.
Yeah.
It goes all the way back to the first decade of the 1900s. And so when I think of Kentucky music, I think of that particular moment in my life back in 2021 when I took a concerted effort to familiarize myself with this stuff.
Mhm.
And that has led to content here at the museum that we can get into.
Yeah, yeah, and that's what we will get into. And I did want to ask you that question because sometimes you get that what is Kentucky music and instantly well bluegrass. That's going to be your thing, and understandably, there's a big tie to bluegrass music in Kentucky. But when you really get into it, there's rap music from Kentucky, there's heavy metal music from Kentucky, there's new music and all these other genres. And in my opinion, it's all good.
It's really incredible. So I'll just get into it and tell you. Back in about 2023, or 2022, I'd say, we started working on a project here at the museum where we wanted to start expanding our brand from, we're known by a lot of folks in Louisville. A lot of our visitors are folks from Louisville or folks coming in from all over the country or the world. Anecdotally, I always ask people when I'm giving tours, and they say, I'm from Iowa, I'm from Japan, I'm from Maine, I'm from Montreal, I'm from Boca Raton, whatever. They're all over. We didn't get a lot of people from around the other counties in Kentucky. So we were like, how are we going to rectify that? Well, let's start creating and promoting more content from all those other communities in the state of Kentucky. So we started preparing this project that has turned into a big exhibit. It is called 120 Cool Kentucky Counties, and it is housed within that Cool Kentucky exhibition that I told you about. It is part of that. It's like kind of one of the first things you see. You walk into Cool Kentucky, you see pop culture stuff. You see the boat Tory Murden rode across the Atlantic Ocean. You see the disco ball, because so many of those were made in Kentucky. You see a giant Corvette car. But there is a big display called 120 Cool Kentucky Counties. You can see right there on your screen. It is that big casework our collections team built, and it's flanked by these two monitors that are at waist height. You can see people using them there. And when you approach it, it is a big map, digital touchscreen map of the state of Kentucky with the county lines drawn on there. And if you walk up to it and you click a county, say Jefferson County, it will pop up and it'll tell you Jefferson County, who it was named for, when the county was founded, what is the largest, what is the county seat, right? So it's just some sort of boilerplate information about that county, but it's also stuff that we have purposefully collected here in our team at the museum, a collaborative effort from different staff members where you click Jefferson County and it'll bring up a text story about something from the history of Jefferson County. It'll bring up usually a video package that we've produced of something interesting from the history of Jefferson County and a song. So that is true of all 120 counties. You can click your home county of Lincoln County. I believe you said your wife is from Rockcastle County. You can click that. And there's unique content. And the idea is to demonstrate the breadth of sort of human experience that goes on here in Kentucky and all these wonderful things. There's human tragedy and triumph and stuff that maybe you were familiar with, maybe you weren't familiar with. Now, my role in this project was, because I had been going on this personal journey of learning about Kentucky music, even though I work in the marketing department, I was tasked with putting together this playlist. Hey, let's come up with a playlist with one song from each county. And I was like, at that point, when I was tasked with that, I had about 60, 70 counties covered. So I really only need about 50 or 40 left. But those are counties where it's like, if I tell you, Jameson, go find a song from Owsley County, Kentucky, some of these counties are really sparsely populated.
Yeah.
And like, that was a journey in itself. So as a result, I spent a lot of time on Google. I spent a lot of time on newspapers.com searching for different music. And as a result, I specifically wanted to make an effort to not choose a song that represents any particular county, because like scroll down a little bit and we'll look at Adair County. That's the first one alphabetically. You've got a song by, I believe her name is Maggie Cox. And she recorded that when she was like a 17-year-old. And she just started recording. She was a singer-songwriter. She started recording songs and putting them on Spotify. and it took off. So there was, if you Google, music from Columbia, Kentucky, music from Adair County, Kentucky, you'll probably end up on the first or second page of Google finding out about Maggie Cox, which is how I found her. So of course I wanted to choose her. The second one, Allen County, is Laddie Moore, who was a big rockabilly singer back in the 1950s. And like, I didn't choose each song to say like Allen County is more rockabilly than the other counties or whatever. It's because at the end of the day, I wanted a big playlist that showed all the range of talent that's showcased here in Kentucky. I mean, the third county you're looking at there, Anderson County, that's Fred Keems, who's been a guest on your show. Now, he doesn't live in Anderson County anymore. He and his wife live in Mercer County. But when I believe he lived there for about 10 years, and he recorded some Native American flute music. He makes his own flutes, and he's an incredible musician. And he talks about the history of his people. He's spoken here at the museum before. So we've got Native American flute already just in the first three: rockabilly, Native American flute player, and singer-songwriter. And then fourth, of course, Kelsey Walden from Monkey's Eyebrow in Ballard County, blowing up as a honky-tonk country western country artist. So those are just 4 out of 120.
Yeah.
And like, that's basically, if you come to the Fraser Museum and you play with our 120 monitors, you can find and listen to any of these songs and read about them. And it's been such a treat as somebody who was so ignorant of Kentucky music to learn about all of this great music. And especially this opened March 15th, 2024. And we made a big effort to have basically a mini version of a Kentucky State Fair where we invited folks from all over the counties, people who are represented in these stories, but also some of these musicians. I reached out to them, all the musicians that are currently alive and making music. Like, if you stop your screen right there, you'll see Christian County. That fellow is Ricardo Martin from Hopkinsville. That's the oldest song in the playlist. He made that in 1910, recorded it in 1910. So obviously that guy's not around anymore. But the bulk of the music is more recent. So the most recent song was recorded and released in 2024. And so 1910 to 2024, we have all this music. And when we had the exhibit opening March 15th, I reached out to these folks in advance, the ones who are still alive, still making music. And I said, we want to come see you represented here at this exhibit opening because you're in the exhibit. So like on your screen here, Sonora May from Estill County, she came. Sam from Rivoli in Fayette County came. We had musicians from, I think, 30, 40 different counties come. At our 120 exhibit opening, I got to go up at the press conference and invite all these musicians in the house to come up on stage in front of everyone and introduce them one by one and say, this person is from this county, here's their story, and they're represented in this exhibit. And we had about 30 to 40 different musicians. And at the end, our main performer was 12 or 14-year-old yodeler Phoebe White from Laurel County. She's from London. She's incredible, played at Grand Ole Opry. She played Blue Moon of Kentucky, and they all sang back up. And it was a really special moment just to see all these folks from different genres representing the state of Kentucky. Because like you said, people think bluegrass, people think folk and country music, and all those things. We have a rich heritage here in Kentucky. But man, like if you stop your screen there on the left, Jefferson County, people say Jack Harlow, people say, My Morning Jacket. There's all these famous artists from Louisville, but I wanted to choose a Spanish language musician because there's a robust Latin music scene here in Louisville. So I chose Ashley Toro, who was born in Venezuela, and she was on a kids show there, and she moved to Louisville back in 2013. And she makes Latin pop music, Spanish language. She's basically a regular winner at the Kentucky Latin Music Awards. And she came to that exhibit opening and it was really special. The person next to her, Jessamine County, that's Hong Shao, right? Like you think Jessamine County, Nicholasville, you think, okay, maybe John Michael Montgomery. And he's great. I love his music, but like we've got plenty of country represented in this, pop country represented in the exhibit. So I'm like, when I heard about Hong Shao, I watched a KET special about her. I was like, who is this woman?
Yeah.
Like, dude, she was born and educated in China, and she moved to Kentucky about 20 years ago and lives in Jessamine County. And she goes around Kentucky promoting Chinese culture and music she founded the Peepaw Club at Scott County Elementary, that's the instrument she's holding that picture. It's like, it's like a big pear-shaped lute. And she shreds. She's like the Eddie Van Halen of the Peepaw. I mean, if you listen to her play, her finger picking is unbelievable. So, of course, I tracked her down and we had a conversation, and she's included in the exhibit. And she got to get up there and sing on stage. She was standing next to Nappy Roots. I mean, It was
Yeah.
such a special moment. So I encourage you guys to look that up on YouTube.
Yeah. The performances are on YouTube if people want to check them out.
Yeah, if you look up the Fraser or Blue Moon of Kentucky, yeah, it was
Hmm.
at our 120 Cool Kentucky Counties exhibit opening, and many of these artists that you're scrolling through right now are featured or were able to attend. I mean, Logan County, there you see Athena Cage on the left.
Hmm.
She she got to come at the exhibit opening. She was featured. She was a pop R&B singer back in the early aughts. She was featured in the Save the Last Dance soundtrack. Next to her, Lyon County. That's one of my favorite stories. I don't know if you got to meet these guys at the exhibit opening.
I saw.
Lyon County is home of the Kentucky State Penitentiary, right, which is the castle on the Cumberland. And
Hmm.
those guys, you see in that picture there, why are they in front of a chain link fence? They were all inmates at the Kentucky State Penitentiary back in the early 80s, and they all met up and were like, let's make a rock band. And they got guitars, drums, amps, and mics, and they recorded music inside a small room beneath the laundry in the prison. And they recorded like 50 songs. And now they got out. And then in 40 years later, they all got back together and made a website. They started practicing again, and they're kind of interested in telling their history of how they were the birth of prison rock, they call it.
Hmm.
But they were some guys in Lyon County, Kentucky, making music inside the walls of the prison, and now you
Yeah.
can hear their music on Spotify. It's a really incredible story.
That is quite unique. I don't think too many bands have that story of, hey, we met in prison and started
No,
rocking and rolling.
no.
No. Um, well, it just goes to show you, and to point out the fact that there's just so much history, and like we've talked about this, or I've had conversations with people when you're looking at like how to talk about a county's history. Well, you got Civil War history for Jefferson County or Lincoln County. You got archaeology history for you know uh, Mason County or Madison County, and you got music history for this county and that county. You got sports history for all this stuff. There's just so much history out there, I guess, to talk about and connect. And then you got the stuff that's happening now that some of them folk songs. You think of Tyler Childress or Sturgill Simpson. They're a bit more of that old country sounding.
Hmm.
Uh, and then you look at these other people, but they have those ties too. And it's not just that old folk music or bluegrass music, I should say. There's plenty of Kentucky music for everybody,
It's
and Kentucky history.
It's true. I mean, if you look at, I'm sorry, I keep referencing stuff that's for the YouTube viewers, so
Oh,
they
that's
can
fine.
see stuff on your screen. But that's because Jameson's got something pulled up on his monitor. But the album cover here for Nicholas County, we've got is this one gave me the most trouble. I've never been in Nicholas County. When I think of it, I think of the Battle of the Blue Licks, right? That's
Yeah,
where that
yeah.
was. So it's probably physically the smallest county by area in the state. But man,
Uh,
it
no,
was
almost.
is it all okay? Well, it was giving me a lot of trouble to find music from Nicholas County, and I was like, come on, I can't get 119 counties. This has got to be. So I was tracking down. I was so desperate, Jameson. I was calling like taverns. I was on Google Maps. I'm looking at places. I'm like, how can I find a local artist that performs at the local bar on a Friday night? Uh, I even was emailing with the band director at the local elementary or middle school to see if he could record his class's performance and put that on Spotify. And he was just like, who is this? Like, I'm like, come on, man, I just need some music from Nicholas County on Spotify. But what you see there, this artwork, if you can tell by the style, this is a gentleman named Bill Roundtree, and he passed away in 2020. I found him because I found his obituary. So when I was Googling different versions of Carlisle, Kentucky music,
Hmm.
Nicholas County, Kentucky music, this guy I think was born in Carlisle and then moved out to the plains in like Oklahoma or Nebraska or something when he was a kid. So he spent a couple years of his life in Nicholas County, Kentucky. But as an adult, he became a skilled guitar instructor, and some of his music is on Spotify. It is
Wow.
speed metal, though. It is very abrasive. So I was resistant to using it at first because the guy is very skilled, and I like speed metal, but I was like, I don't know, man, in this museum exhibit. But you know what? I think it's a sign because he was the only music I could find, and it's really good. So if you
Oh.
go to our exhibit and you click Nicholas County, you'll get to hear some wonderful speed metal from the late Bill Roundtree. So shout out, Bill.
Hey, hey, Nothing wrong with a little speed metal, I guess.
Um,
What's it?
I know,
Is
I
it?
know. I've heard you talk about your music taste. I know you like a System of a Down,
Yeah, yeah. There you go.
new metal, and then I
Yeah,
think have you had the local honeys on there? A
yeah.
choice
Oh
for
yeah,
Rowan County. I
yeah.
chose
They're
them.
awesome.
Some of these people you can associate them with a particular county. You might say, why do you have the local honeys? That each of those members is from a different county, and I chose Rowan because they met when they were students at Morehead State,
Hmm.
right?
Yeah, yeah.
Or Shelby County, I chose for Jack Harlow. People are like, "Whoa, hold up! He lives in downtown Louisville." Well, guess what? He grew up. Part of his childhood was growing up out on a farm in Shelby County. So
Yeah,
that's why Shelby County we got Jack Harlow.
yeah, yeah, yeah. And well, I mean, I think when you think about even in current music, there's a lot of Kentuckians that are top or high up there on the charts or
Mhm.
popularity. Um, there you go.
It's
Let's
a
see.
challenge too because it's like, dude, Johnson County. Are you going to do Loretta Lynn or are you going to do Chris Stapleton?
Yeah,
I
yeah.
mean, or I mean, I think there was some Johnson County for Tyler Childers, but I mean, I think of him as Lawrence County, right? Louisa.
Hmm.
But for Johnson County, it's like Chris Stapleton's awesome, but you got
Yeah.
to go with the Queen, right?
Yeah, yeah,
It's
yeah,
Loretta.
yeah. Well, that's interesting too. You go from some counties, you got multiple choices. You get to kind of figure out which one to pick. Then
Hmm.
other counties, you're digging and digging and digging.
Well, well, it's also like it was a toss up for Lincoln County. I was going to go with a guy like Alfred G. Carnes, who is from like the 1930s, and it
Mhm,
sounds like a ukulele. He was a traveling preacher type guy, and he has these evangelical tunes that are really, really sweet. You can look them up. I don't think he wrote them, but uh, ultimately, I went with who's the band Highway Natives because they have a
mhm.
song called Lincoln County Line, and it's about
Yeah.
like I think they're Nashville based, but the one musician's from Lincoln County, and it's like over Ottenheim Gap and like pulling in to see my grandma's house.
I know where those places are.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Uh, Robertson County is the smallest area and population.
That's right. That's Battle of the Blue Licks. Okay.
Yeah, yeah.
Um,
Yeah, well, I mean, if you want a little bit of Kentucky history, music style, check out the 120 counties playlist. Yeah, and you can find this on Spotify. I mean, for those people out there, how do you find it on Spotify?
Musical Kentucky, a song from each county. I'm sure if you search Musical Kentucky on Spotify, it'll pop up.
Okay.
Um, there is, I think there are a couple versions of it. They should be the same. There's one that we use to like play on rotation in the museum shop, and I think that one probably doesn't have like the speed metal or like the more abrasive music. It's more customer friendly.
Yeah,
But yeah, if you find one that's got 120 songs, it's called Musical Kentucky. That's ours.
yeah.
But also, Joe, just like if you are able to come visit the Fraser Museum, we've got. You'll hear that you can play with the monitor. You can learn not just the music, but you can learn all these incredible stories. Some of this stuff has been featured in your podcast, and like
Mhm.
I got to thank you. 5 years into the show, I remember 4.5 years ago, whatever, finding your show and listening to it and being like, wow, every episode I was looking forward to. And I've learned so much. You've done such a treat for this people of Kentucky and this community of Kentucky history nerds like you and me.
Mhm.
And you've created community because like you and I got to meet in person back at the 120 exhibit, and like
Yeah.
I get to meet some of your guests, and it's just like it's something really special. I like forging relationships with all these people.
Mhm.
Um, but we're gonna try to do something special. I don't know if we're gonna bring that 120 exhibit opening back and make it an annual thing or what. But we're gonna try to have more content that is about the counties and the history, so that
Mhm.
more opportunities for people to come from around the state and visit. And if you're here, you can see, like I said, that Civil War monument and the Mary Todd Lincoln stuff. But if you really like music, we've got a whole case of objects Jack Harlow has loaned us. We've
Mhm.
got stuff from Tom T. Hall and Bill Monroe and Lily Mae
Mhm.
Ledford from the Coon Creek Girls. Just incredible Kentucky music stuff.
Plenty of stuff. Yeah, and as far as the with the 120 counties exhibit there, plan to have some time there because you will very easily start looking at one county, and before you know it, you're looking at every county, and you've been there for an hour or two.
And you were at the exhibit opening, so man, there was a line to get to those
Yeah, I
monitors. You
know.
just got to come on a slow day so you can just take all the time in the world to just sit and learn. And
Yeah,
I mean,
the pressure of a line, man. Those people are
yeah.
hovering over you like, okay, I gotta go.
Well, people are also taking selfies. Like I'm from Pulaski County. Like I'm in the exhibit. What's up?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Well, Simon, again, thank you for coming on and talking with us about, Kentucky music, the museum, and so forth. It's been 5 years, so let's hope for 5, 10, 20 more, and
That's right.
keep the Kentucky history coming.
Here, here.
Anything new going on at the museum, or that people can come, anything like that?
Well, right now you can come see our Flashback Louisville Media Through the Years exhibition, which covers the history of Louisville media, newspaper, radio, TV, going all the way back to the Bloody Monday riots of 1855, like how media has covered major events in the history of the city, the 1974 tornado, the 1994 winter storm, up to like the 2020 Breonna Taylor protests. Also, in the holiday season, we're going to have Lights on Main again, which is where we have holiday trees, or Christmas trees decorated by, I think, 75 or 100 different sponsors, like local businesses. So that's always fun, where we have, events, themed nights, kids choirs singing, and all sorts of Christmas and holiday fun. But our permanent exhibitions are worth a visit in themselves. So come see Kentucky Show, come play with the 120 monitors, take tours. We offer 3 guided tours every day. I lead them at least once a week, but my colleagues lead some phenomenal tours. They fill in the gaps that I don't know. We've got exhibits on bourbon, Lewis and Clark, toy soldiers. My favorite is the Commonwealth. That's the history of Kentucky from basically the Ice Age to the present.
Yeah.
And if you don't have a chance to visit, make sure you follow us on Instagram or TikTok, where we put a lot of great history content as well.
Yeah, plenty of stuff, man. Appreciate the work you're doing, we'll keep at it, man. We got to preserve the history, man.
That's right. I want to be doing this for the rest of my life. Like, otherwise, I've been spending the last 7 years accumulating all this knowledge of Kentucky history. If I wasn't working here, I don't know what I would be doing.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Well, thanks again for coming on, thank you all for listening, and we'll see you next time.
Thanks.
Welcome to the Kentucky History Channel, where we strive to bring you all the Kentucky history content you want and you deserve. Kentucky is a part of all of us, and we plan on covering all the history we can, from Pike County to Fulton County, from Louisville to Harlan. Here on our YouTube channel, you can find many videos dedicated to different events, people, governors, and places in Kentucky. There's something for everybody. While you're here, if you like the channel, hit the subscribe button and the notification button so you get notified anytime new Kentucky history is available. And if you want to support the channel, we have a Patreon page as well, or patreon.com/KYHistoryPod. You've probably heard about Daniel Boone, but what about the rest of the frontiersmen who came to Kentucky and settled? That's what we want to bring to the Kentucky History Channel. The stories of the untold, the stories of those forgotten. One thing to expect on our channel is great Kentucky content. Some stories that you've never heard of. The Night Riders, who began in western Kentucky. Bloody Monday, the riots in Louisville. The assassination of Governor Goebel, the only governor ever assassinated in the United States. Stories from all over Kentucky, stories that are unforgettable once you've heard them. You can find out who counties in Kentucky are named after and how your county got started. From beginning to end, we plan to document every county in Kentucky, all 120. Reach out to us on all of our social media platforms, Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram, and also leave a comment on one of our YouTube videos. You can also check out our podcast episodes. You can subscribe to our podcast on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, iHeartRadio, and many more. We're always seeking to find more Kentucky history so we can bring it to you, the viewers, the listeners. We want all the stories and all the events from Kentucky's great history to be told and shared everywhere.